Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Brian E. Roach and Zach Meckler.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Brian E. Roach. You know me as the host who, doesn't like certain things that we're not going to discuss. And we're coming to you today after a Steelers victory that they stole. That's why I have this filter on. They stole a game in Tennessee. It's awesome. I love it. I'm going to turn this off now because it confuses me when I look at it. Joe is in Kentucky. He actually was in Tennessee a little bit over the weekend. I don't think he got to go to the game since he's in Kentucky now. It's very unlikely. So filling in, the one, the only, professor of football, the coach who, I don't know what rhymes with coach. I don't want to say poach because that doesn't make sense. The coach, just the coach. He's the professor of football. He's the coach now. One Zachariah Meckler. Zach, how you doing, man? I haven't seen you in a while.
I popped a couple antacids and, got the heart rate back down a little bit because I really thought this was going to be another stereotypical pissing away of a game. But, we were able to get through there. My hands are steady now from where we were like that earlier. So, we're getting there. We're getting there. Maybe by the end of this podcast, I'll be a little calmer. Maybe I'll be a little more riled up. Who knows? These things kind of have a way of playing themselves out. So we'll see. But I'm doing well right now.
Yes. It's funny, we say stereotypical, letting the game slip away, but that hasn't been the motif of this team this year. They've let teams get back into games, but then they've managed to find a way to be victorious. We'll talk about that for sure with this particular game. But man, I'll tell you, let's just focus on the first half of this thing because that's the most fun part. Anyway, the Steelers really looked unbeatable. I mean, when that team is firing on all cylinders, and I've said this before, they have the weapons, they have the talent, but man, when they're firing on all cylinders, I don't know how you stop this team. I really don't. You're talking about what? They have a 16-play drive to start the game, with minus 25 yards in penalty yards thrown into that, but they still managed to go 75 yards for a touchdown. And then the next drive, 13 plays for another, 61 yards for another touchdown, and all of a sudden it's 14-0. Tennessee gets back into the game. They get the ridiculous long touchdown to DJ Brown AJ Brown, DJ left J, some letter J Brown, who was one of the guys we wish kind of could have come here. I know Zachariah, not you Zachariah, the other Zachariah, Zachadonia. He really wanted DJ or I can't, whatever the hell his name is. I don't care. Brown.
We got DJ.
Yeah, we got DJ.
TJ, all the J's.
Yeah, there's too many J's. Goes some ridiculous and 73 yards for the score. But, you take that out of that first half, they gave up that touchdown, nothing really else in the first half to Tennessee. They score 3 touchdowns and basically just look undefeatable. The offense is on fire, the defense is playing well minus that one lapse. Derrick Henry is doing nothing at all, to feel like this game is going to turn around. And I tweeted at the end of the half, I said, this is a great start. Let's just avoid the tale of two halves storyline. Okay, well, that didn't happen. But let's, take away your impressions from the first half because, as I said, I just stunningly one-sided first half.
No, I thought the game plan was exactly what it needed to be. I mean, the thing is with Derrick Henry, you let him get going, you let him start getting some carries, getting the rhythm, you let him bust off a 10-yard gain. That's when he starts getting that kind of boulder down a mountain type of mentality and turns into an avalanche, So the fact that in the first half he wasn't doing anything, they were keeping the ball out of his hands, they were playing from behind for the most part, so Tannehill had to take things over. I thought that was a great game plan because if you're never going to truly shut down Derrick Henry, but you can slow him down, neutralize him, try to get him to not be as big of a factor. In the first half, I thought was masterful. You're keeping Tannehill and Derrick Henry on the sidelines. You're keeping the ball in Ben Roethlisberger's hands and all of the offense's hands. You're going to have success. In the first half, start to finish, they did that. I looked at the time of possession clock, and I realized there was 10 minutes that already passed in the first quarter, and we're still the first possession. I'm like, absolutely unbelievable. I saw the stat. It was like their first 16-play drive to start a half since the AFC Championship game back in 2010. Like that's just incredible. Just dinking and dunking down the field, chewing the clock, penalties moving back. They get those yardage back. So I thought they did extremely well in the first half, being efficient with the ball, being smart with it. I'm not even going to chalk off the interception at the end of the half because that's just to throw it up there on a prayer, hope for the best. They wouldn't be in that position. Eric Ebron doesn't have that false start. They all move back. They probably get a field goal there instead. So I'm not even going to chalk that up as being anything with the offense. With the exception of that one interception, I have no real flaws with what they did in the first half. They moved the ball down. They scored every drive, whether it was a field goal or a touchdown, and that's what you need to do, or almost every drive. They did what they needed to do, and I thought it was an excellent first half. And if they play like that in games and they put together an entire game like that, like they kind of did last week against the Browns, this is a dominant team that can go and play with anybody. There's always been the notion of the Steelers they haven't played anybody, they can't compete with the big dogs. Well, the Titans have been lauded as one of the best teams in the league, and they went in there in that first half. They made them look like they were playing a JV football team.
Yeah.
So they did what they needed to do. First half was excellent. If they play like that, they are a complete team on both sides of the ball. But, as you said, tale of two halves. I think the only complete game I really feel they've played in a complete half-and-half game was last week. Every other game, including this one, as I'm sure we're going to talk about here, tale of two halves, and then you have to sit there and wonder which version of the Steelers you're going to get on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, it's absolutely correct. Let's just run through this real quick in the first half, the drives that were. The Steelers, they win the toss and they elect not to defer, which I know Joe doesn't like. I don't actually like. I would have preferred to defer, but sometimes you do it differently when you're on the road. You want the ball first, you want to try and jump out, and as it turns out, hey. Can't argue, right?
Yeah,
Can't argue with the call.
Honestly, I enjoyed that decision because you don't want to let Tannehill and Henry go down the field, go up 7-0, and then you're from behind. You want to do exactly what they did, and it worked out well.
Yep. So, a lot of short passes. Juju's very involved early on, but just I guess you can't say it any other way. They dinked and dunked their way down the field. They got Ray in there on one of those jet sweeps. They did a lot of good things. James Conner was running strong. One series we had, James Conner off the right guard, off the right tackle. Ben is on fire. I think he missed, one pass, and it really was maybe more of a drop than it was a missed pass in that first series. They go right down and it's a short pass to DJ, who I thought that was the end of that drive, that first touchdown to Deontay Johnson. He sticks his foot in the ground, and I think this was the first drive I'm remembering it. He sticks his foot in the ground and makes just an absolutely, ankle-breaking kind of move on the defensive back, and it just kind of walks in at that point. He catches the ball.
I think there was a second touchdown, but yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember, but I was just. Oh, you're right. Yeah, because the first one was the laser bent feeds. Yeah, the tiny window.
Literally no margin for error at all.
Yes, you're right. Absolutely right. That was the first one. Great throw and placement. And Ben's going to do those things, and came back to bite him later in the in the game. But that one was good. We're thrilled when it works, not so much when it doesn't. But yeah, feeds that one in on the line to Deontay Johnson. The Steelers go up. Then the defense comes back out, and what do we get? Boom, 3 and out. Little help with a nice a holding penalty, I think, on the Titans to help us out. Basically, defense says, no problem. We get the ball right back, drive right down the field again, score another touchdown, up 14-0, as we said. And it looks like they're just. It's going to be kind of like the Ohio State game was in the second half yesterday, where it's just going to be a runaway. Benny Snell gets in. Your boy Henry Mondeau comes in and plays fullback. How about that? Number 99. Number 99. Yeah, you saw some good Henry Mondeau. You saw some, oops, that was a mistake, Henry Mondeau. But it's nice to see him get some reps. You've been touting him for a long time. So it's nice to see him get in there and make some contributions. And then then the next thing is the touchdown. Now look, I don't know. It's very difficult to determine these things on television with the replays that they show. But it sure did kind of look to me like Minka blew that play. That if he doesn't hesitate and just goes for Brown, as a tackle, I think he's trying. I wonder sometimes, is it in his head he has to try and make the big play instead of just making the play? And I wondered about that. And in this case, so I mean, I will bow to your superior professorship. But what did you see on that?
You're talking about on the 75-yard touchdown to Brown?
Yep.
It looked like he was trying to go up there, and then he whipped on the tackle. I know people have been dogging Minka this season because he's not been the impact player that he was last year, but I really think that, like, his tackling has been a step back, and I'm not sure what it is. I mean, he's came up and he's made some, play-saving tackles from being a bigger game. He's come up and he's missed some. And on that one, I don't know if he was trying to go for the blow. I don't know if he was trying to go for the pass breakup. He was just a half second short. I'm not sure what it was on there. I just know I don't think that play should have been a 75-yard touchdown. It was sliced right through the coverage. Minka was there. I want to say Joe Hayden was in the general area as well. And then obviously he just got his foot in the ground. And A.J. Brown's a big physical dude, but he also is fast. And that was one of the big things that people liked with him and DK Metcalf coming out of Ole Miss. They're two big, fast dudes. And he just turned the Jets on and went. I don't really know what Minka's MO is. I do know he likes to come up, and you've seen him. He takes those calculated risks, and he takes those chances on those types of plays. Sometimes it works to his benefit, and sometimes it doesn't. I think this year, when you have the season you have last year, and you create this big pedestal standard for you.
Oh yeah.
If you don't do anywhere close to that, instantly you suck. And that's instantly the mindset. Because he hasn't been the big impact splash player that he was last season, instantly it has to be up. Steelers wasted a first rounder. He's nothing. Blah blah blah. When in reality, he's been quietly solid. He hasn't been the elite safety he was last year, but he's been quietly solid. He makes plays, and then when he pops one off like he did last week against the Browns for that pick six, and all of a sudden you love him. He whiffs on that play. All of a sudden he sucks again. People want to look at it as a black or white, high and low type thing. It was a bad play. It was a great design by the Titans. It was just A.J. Brown just being a very good receiver. People were talking about him last year as being this up-and-coming receiver, and he's been just that for the Titans. I really think Minka was just going for either the kill shot or trying to make a play on it, and he just whiffed. And that happens, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I'm not down on Minka at all.
For sure.
I think, but I do wonder if the expectations that last year set are in his head at any way, shape, or form, and he sometimes goes, I got to make the big play, and it's maybe slightly more aggressive than he should be, because I agree with you 100%. I think if he instead of taking that step like he's going to try and get to the ball, just lets the play unfold in front of him and stops, then that's not a touchdown. But that it's kind of nitpicking, maybe at this point. Except if that score never goes and it's 21-0 at the end of the half, it might maybe they don't get back into it. Maybe that field goal at the beginning of the second half is enough to make them go, all right, it's time to pack this one in. We're not winning this game. But they didn't. But again, the Steelers, they then managed the next drive. They go down. They get a field goal from Boswell, 38-yarder, and kick it back. And again, nothing. Right? Nothing. There's nothing there. The defense does its job, gets the ball back, and gets the ball back in a really nice place because Ray had a day again. Nice. I wonder, it's, again, nitpicky, backseat quarterbacking. I feel like if he just cuts right on that, he's in.
I said the same thing when I saw it happen. I know what he was trying to do. I don't think he thought James Pierre was going to be there to block him.
Yeah.
The momentum was carrying him right in that trajectory, and Raymond McLeod's a fast dude. I think he plans right. He's probably walking into the end zone there. I get why he did it because it was all in the moment thinking, but I agree with you completely.
Yeah, I there was a tweet that was sent out that I thought was funny, so I'm going to share. I can't give credit where credit's due because I don't have the energy or the effort to go look it up right now. But somebody said, and then with one play, Oh, it might have been fake Mike Tomlin or evil Mike Tomlin account. I can't remember. The evil Mike Tomlin account. He said something like, obviously in one play, Ray McLeod has more return yards than Brian Switzer had in his entire Steelers career. and that I said, I'm not sure that's 100% fair or true, but it's true. And again, then I tweeted out, I said, the thing I like about Ray is his movement is not side to side. He's not running sideline to sideline all the time. He's looking forward. He's moving, north south and that to me that's just refreshing because I feel like Ryan Switzer always ran sideline to sideline.
You know what the difference is here, though, Brian? He's a Clemson Tiger. That's exactly.
Oh no! Get the hell out of here with that crap. Get the hell out of here with that crap. I don't like him anymore. The hell with him. Get him off.
I knew that was going to come.
Bring back Ryan Switzer. No, I don't mean that. I really don't. I'm happy that he's there. And the truth is now, he's not a Clemson Tiger. He's a Pittsburgh Steeler. So,
best of both worlds for me.
There you go. So anyway, they do capitalize on that, make them pay, and they that's the second one, the Deontay Johnson one we were talking about, where he plants and just makes a nice kind of a grown-ass man kind of move, gets it in the end zone. And, Tennessee does, again, nothing at the end of the half. The Steelers then do the crazy nonsense where, they shoot themselves in the foot with the false start by Eric Ebron. And then Tomlin did say in his post-game press conference that's why they switched. They might have tried something underneath, gain some yards, and then kick a field goal. Yeah. But when they lost that, they just threw it deep. And I agree with you. I hate the fact that even counts as an interception because it's just silly.
The media is going to come out tomorrow and they're going to say, "Oh, Ben wasn't efficient. He had 3 interceptions." I mean, he still had 2 very errant ones in the second half that we'll get to. But that one in the first half is just a chuck it up on a prayer, hope for the best, and it's just not a well thrown ball, and it was picked off that had no bearing on anything.
Yeah, I mean, I actually am in the position, and we since we're about to get to the second half, I'm in this frame of mind that 2 of the 3 interceptions I just shake my head at. I go, that's just bad freaking luck. Because the one that's tipped, right, and is in the air for what felt like 100 years.
15 minutes, something like that.
Yeah. I kind of like, Ben, you kind of got to get the ball over the line. But, it happens, and they were tipping balls left and right. You can also say the offensive line needs to help keep those guys' hands down so that they don't get up. But they get the hand in the passing lane. It happens. It's sort of semi out of his control. He thinks he's got the passing lane there. The guy gets his hand up. He just makes a play. The third one, the one to Juju, that's, as we said, you get the good with it in Deontay Johnson's touchdown in the first half. That's the bad of it. Juju did have both hands on the ball at one point.
He did.
So, you can almost say, had it worked, everybody had been going, oh, my God, it's the most amazing play ever. Yeah. Now, again, it didn't work, so it's a crap play.
It's situationally in that position, too. You get the offensive pass interference with Claypool, which I still haven't gone back and seen to see how accurate it actually was. But at the end of the day, too, in my mind, situationally, I'm not trying to force throws. I'm trying to get 3 points on the board to kind of extend that lead. But, again, he gets the touchdown. We're not having this conversation. We're sitting here praising Ben for yet another good throw. So I see both sides of the argument there. It's always easier to go back in hindsight and say, why'd you do that? Well, he did it because he wanted the touchdown. I mean, that's exactly what
I really don't think Ben played a bad game.
No.
Yes, statistic-wise, rating-wise, it's going to look like he had the worst game he's had this season because of the numbers. And it's really what does him in is the three picks. But he ends up with a 67.4 passer rating. But, 32 of 49 for 268 yards and 2 touchdowns. They threw more than they needed to, I felt like at times. But at the same time, they were aggressive and they were kind of coming after the Titans, which I think is what led to them being up. I wish they had stayed a little more aggressive in the second half. It felt like early on they were trying to lean on the run heavier and switch it up. But, hey, again, I'll take it. It's a win. So when you look at those numbers, again, it's not – I just don't think it's that bad. Yes, the ints are there, and that's what drags it down. But I'm willing to take a game like this if we come out with a W, and hope that it's the offside of that, of what Ben's going to do this season. Beyond Ben, James Conner had a nice game, 20 for 82, 4.1 average. The rest of the running back crew, other than Benny Snell getting a 1-yard touchdown, were mostly ineffective, I thought. Didn't get a lot of snaps either. I mean, Anthony McFarland got 1 attempt. Jalen Samuels got 1 attempt. Benny Snell got 2. So certainly not a lot of committee work there.
No.
But I think James Conner was scared me. Now, early on, he was scaring me a little bit because he put the ball on the ground early on, but he got right back on it. They didn't lose any of those fumbles. There were 2 fumbles, I think, that occurred that they got back on. And that was one with James Conner, and that's always a bit of a worry sometimes, is that he can fumble at inopportune times. But he got back on it, so that didn't cost them. Juju Smith-Schuster, 14 targets, 9 receptions, 85 yards. Deontay, 15 targets, 9 receptions, 80 yards. He had the 2 TDs. It was nice to see the tight ends on National Tight End Day, according to Bill Cowher. Get in the mix. Vance McDonald had a couple catches. Eric Ebron had 6. Nice one over the middle. One of the ones I've been waiting to see that start to become more of a thing, right? Ben threw down the middle to one of those 2 guys. It just doesn't feel like that's come into fruition consistently yet. Do you think it's just because the guys are not getting open, or they're looking elsewhere? It feels like they should be able to exploit the middle of the field with these guys.
Yeah, I thought they would have done it today more because of the fact the Titans' defense has struggled kind of this year getting guys over. I mean, their defense in general has struggled against the pass. And obviously covering tight ends, they've allowed a lot of those dudes. I know Darren Fells had some success last week for the Texans against them. So I thought really they would have tried to do that. But it looks like schematically speaking, they haven't been doing a lot of those seam-busting plays that we've seen them do with Heath Miller, where you send Heath Miller down in the front and just throw him the ball and he guarantees you 15. A lot of the times you see those guys kind of running short routes in the flat. They're running crosses across the middle of the field type of deal. But there hasn't been a whole lot of seam incorporation with their offense with them. I've been saying a lot of these guys kind of just on underneath routes, allowing Eric Ebron and Vance McDonald to be the big physical players that they are, and trying to pick up those easy yards. I do think that it's very evident at this point that they're trying to rely more on the athletic ability of Eric Ebron, because he seems like he's kind of taken that spot as the pseudo number 1 tight end away from Vance McDonald. I think I haven't looked at the exact snap count, but it seems like in a lot of the situations they're relying on him as the tight end. And there's times in the run game too where they have him in the game as opposed to Vance McDonald. And in some situations where you think they would use McDonald as one of the biggest complaints about Ebron has been his run blocking ability. So I really think schematically speaking, they just haven't really deployed them enough in those rooms based on, or in those areas of the field down the seam to kind of get them look. For some of those seam-busting routes, you see guys like Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Zach Ertz make. So I think a lot of the times they're just trying to get them underneath. You see them running quick outs and whatnot, quick bang routes, shallow underneath, kind of getting them to go where they need to go and just pick up the easy yardage and allow them to try and make some stuff with their legs afterwards, which I don't know the exact numbers. I haven't seen them, but it seems like their yards after catch hasn't been extraordinarily high for either one of them. It seems like they get the ball, they're sure-handed, picking up the yardage and then just getting down, which I'm fine with, as long as it keeps the sticks moving. But I agree with you. I thought they would have exploited it more just based on the deficiencies the Titans have on defense. I didn't think they really had a linebacker that could compete with him over the middle. You throw him in the slot. And I really thought that's why you saw a lot of Juju and Deontay Johnson doing well this today as well, because of the fact that they were in the slot and they were getting exploited over the middle. But I thought they would have used the tight ends just for those mismatches, because, Ebron and McDonald both big dudes, big physical dudes. So it worked out for him. Ebron's still 8 in some capacity, so I can't complain about it.
Yeah, all right. So let's look at the second half. Do
we have to?
Yeah, we don't really have any choice. I don't want to, but we kind of have to. Okay. Second half starts out pretty good, really. Defense gets another 3 and out, if I'm not mistaken. Titans come out in the third quarter. They do absolutely bupkis. I think sack. T.J. Watt comes in and does a complete grown-ass man sack on Tannehill. That was just, It was a nice second. I mean, may as well talk about this right now as well before we get into what a nice game by T.J. Watt overall. I mean, he had just quality. I mean, he had Derrick Henry at least twice in the backfield, if not more, for loss. Just felt like he was doing whatever he wanted at times. And then it's funny because you get to that point, and then you can see the adjustments that the other team makes to a certain extent, where now they're either keeping some extra guys in to block, or the ball is coming out a lot quicker because all of a sudden the pressure just goes away to a certain extent, or it feels like it. It feels like they have the time that they need to throw the ball. And TJ, he gets. I know I've said this all season long. I know Joe said this all season long. T.J. Watt is the new James Harrison as far as the refs are concerned. There is no such thing as holding on T.J. Watt. I don't know why that is, but that seems to be the case. And I may as well pull this out of my hat because I'm normally one who, the refs do stink, and they stink, and they stink. Period. They stink. But this is not a game where I felt compelled to call that out. I thought the refs did a adequate job of just letting the players play. Were there things I questioned? Sure, but, I'll let some stuff slide, and I've said this repeatedly, as long as they're consistent.
Yes.
And I felt like this was a consistently officiated game. Yeah, and maybe not badly, but consistently adequately.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you look back at the Eagles game, I think that was easily the worst called game on both sides for both the Steelers and the Eagles.
Bad.
That was a horrendously called game. If I'm an Eagles fan, I'm mad. As a Steelers fan, I'm mad. I thought last week, even though the Steelers won handily, I thought there were calls they missed on both sides of the ball for both the Browns and the Steelers. I thought for this one, I thought the calls they made were consistent. The only one I have to go back and look to see how I feel about is the Claypool offensive pass interference. But even then, I'm not going to he's still learning, but at the end of the day, I thought there were a lot of calls that the last couple of weeks would have been called as some of those ticky-tack pass interference calls because they're hand battling. I was happy to see that on both sides of the ball, they were just letting them play it out. The ball was there. The defensive player makes a play. They don't call it for both the Steelers and the Titans, which I thought was nice. Because like you said, if they're gonna call the penalty, everything needs to be PI, or everything needs to be holding, or everything needs to be a face mask. At the end of the day, if it's warranted, let it go. If it's not, then whatever. But at the end of the day, I thought that they let a lot of stuff go that wasn't egregious. There was no egregious penalties. I'm sitting there saying, whether they do not calling that. They were all the stereotypical, Eric Ebron just fighting with a linebacker, or you saw Corey Davis hand battling with Steven Nelson. I'm not gonna waste my time throwing a flag on that. They're two dudes, NFL players, trying to go at it and make a play. Either they made the play, or they did make the play. But if you're gonna call one, you got to call all. I think that just takes away from the game. So if you're going to do it and there's nothing that's just blatant I'm getting full extension or I'm holding the guy's arm behind his back, there was none of that. Don't call it then, and they didn't. I agree with you. That was a very good game from what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, you go. I can't let the words "good" come out of my mouth.
Compared to the last 2 weeks, compared to the last 2 weeks of officiating for the Steelers games and for the other two teams as well, I was happy that this game
it was adequate.
Yeah. Because a lot of the calls were warranted. The face mask on Chukwuma Okorafor, I don't know if I throw that, but you watch the replay and he grabs his face mask when he's trying to reset his hands. They're going to call face. Yeah, exactly. They're going to call face mask on that, and I'm fine with that. It's not ticky tack; it's a penalty.
This is what got me to shut up about it. I'll tell you, because early on, there was a play on Ben that I thought should have been roughing, and I think Ben thought it should have been roughing.
Yeah, I saw that one,
and they didn't call it. And I know at least one of our frequent listeners, frequent Twitter commenters said if that had been on Ben, they'd have called it. Or if that had been on Tannehill, they'd have called it. And I agreed. I was like, yeah, I think you're right. And then the Stephon Tuitt play happens in the second half
and
and they didn't call it. I guess I was wrong. Again, That's all I ask. Do I think both of those were probably roughing? Probably. But you're not going to call it one and you didn't call it the other? I got no more complaints with you, refs. I'm sure you'll give me much to complain about down the road, but this game, I give you a pass. The refs did not influence the outcome in one way or another, in my view. and that's rare.
Especially in a game that ended up being as close as it
Yes.
was. One or two bad calls could have completely altered the course of this game.
Oh, heavens, yes. Yeah,
So I'm fine with it.
certainly could have been.
For sure.
So, all right. Anyway, get back to the second half. I know that was more fun to talk about than this
It
is
was.
going to be. The Steelers start out. It seems like okay. It's a continuation. So in the third quarter, they start out. Tennessee gets kicked off the field after a 3-and-out. The Steelers drive down. A shorter drive than they have had. End up settling for a field goal. It's maybe a slightly questionable pass interference call that is enforced, but probably not. It's close enough, and I'll deal with that. But they end up with a field goal, right? Then the Steelers turn around. What? 2 plays, touchdown. Oh, this is the A.J. Brown 73-yarder. This is the one. All right. All of a sudden, boom. There you go. Now you're thinking, oh, come on, you got to be kidding me. It's too fast. So what do the Steelers do? Of course, they're going to come out. They're going to answer back. 3-and-out. Okay. What are the Titans going to do? 3-and-out. Okay. Maybe the defense is going to stand up strong, and it's going to go that way. Now they've given the offense another shot. 3-and-out. 3-and-out. And again, you just going, what are you guys doing here? So then looks like, okay, this is going to start off good. Vince Williams comes in, gets another sack on Tannehill. Nice. Okay, boom, Vince Williams. But then all of a sudden, boom, a couple passes, and what happens? A field goal. Well, all right, I'll take a field goal. Maybe that's not so bad. But it continues onwards, and the Steelers essentially do nothing in this second half. And at any point in time, the scoring, all Steelers scoring really was the first half. All they get in the second half is a field goal. And you're down now. Titans, of course, they score a touchdown. Derrick Henry goes up the middle. Here is what I was annoyed with that call. Even though I think it's blatant, the call that they gave him the PI down there, I do actually think it was a pretty obvious PI, but it was still annoyed me. It just annoyed me because I gotta give Robert Spillane credit. That was a grown-ass man tackle on Derrick Henry on 3rd and 1.
Yes.
And boom, just blew his ass up. And apparently blew Robert Spillane's ass up, too, because he had to come out of the game. He blew both of them up. Derrick Henry stayed, but hey, it happens, right? And but that was a big-time stop. And once they got a new set of downs, you knew it's not going to – I mean, you can't – there's no way you're going to stop them 8 times. So
if you stop Derrick Henry 8 times at the 1-yard line, I mean, you can go down as the greatest defense in NFL history because it's just unbelievable.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So they get the new set of downs here. Henry gets in for the touchdown. Then the Steelers come back and the offense does what you want it to do, right? They control the clock. They go off on another one of these long, ridiculous number of plays drives. Oh, it's got to pay off, but it doesn't. Because Ben throws into triple coverage to try and hit Juju in the end zone. And it's an interception. So with 2:35 left on the clock, the Titans have the ball again. And it's only a 3-point game. I don't give Ben a lot of criticism because I think Ben is a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think he's done a great job. I think he's played fantastic this year for the most part.
Yeah.
And he's a gunslinger type at times. And I do question some of the decisions he makes at times, and this is one of them. And the only reason I question it is I feel like you have to be aware of the situation you're in. And know, okay, yeah, I want the score, but you got to see that there's 3 guys there, right? Yeah. And Juju may not be the best target at this point. Throw it down, even if you just get the field goal. Now you're going to take more time off the clock. You got a kickoff that you can do. You might put the defense in a slightly better position. Plus, a field goal can't tie in it anymore. Now they got to get a touchdown to get ahead. So I question that decision to throw that ball there, but I'll live with it, right? Is it rough? Yeah, it's rough to have, a 16-play drive that gives you no points when you're down at, the 9? I'm more, that's where that offensive pass interference play that I think you're talking about that you have to go back and look at. I don't know. I wonder because it's like, I just don't know. I don't know. They never really showed the replay in a way that I could go, yeah, that was definitely offensive pass interference.
And they discussed it for like 2 minutes, and I didn't know what was going on with it. I didn't know what the penalty could have possibly been because it looked like he just ran a standard slant, caught it, and extended over. I didn't see a push off. I didn't see what happened because it happened so quickly, and all of a sudden there's a flag and they're deliberating. So I had no idea.
Yeah. So anyway, that turns it around, and you get this feeling that they're going to blow the game. This is when everybody is like, they're going to blow the game. It's not going to go good. They get a pass. It's 1st and 10. They pick up some yards, 9 yards. Then they get a penalty. You think, okay, maybe. Then they get a first down. And AJ Brown keeps getting passes thrown to him, and you keep going, how can you lose track of AJ Brown? But he finds a soft spot in zone, sits in there. Tannehill hits him. It's a nice throw. And they're just driving right down, and the defense finally, stiffens enough that they get a 4th and 13 at the 28-yard line. Now the 28-yard line, that's what 45-yard field goal attempt. Now this is a guy who's already made a 51er, right? So you figure, no way. Now this is where I'm going to say the winds of fate helped win this game, and I'm giving that credit to to Zachadonia, who had been chanting that the football gods owed us a turnover the entire game, right? He's just retweeting that constantly, and sure enough, that ball, he hits it, and you look, it thinks you're like, is it good? Is it not good?
It was going right down the middle.
It looked perfect, and then the football gods listened and went, no, I don't think so.
Just a little gust.
Just a little gust moved it enough that he misses it. Steelers go to 6-0, and there was much celebrating. Yay!
Ben's reaction said it all. He sat there and just put his head over. He didn't even clap. He didn't do anything. Just jaw dropped. It was very much like the Colts missed field goal back in 2005 in the divisional round.
Yeah.
Where he goes and everyone's just like, he missed it because you don't expect him to miss that. It's a 45-yard chip shot. But at the same time, too, Gostkowski has been horrendous this year, or at least from a consistency standpoint.
Yeah.
He hits the long one earlier on in the game, but there was the one earlier in the year, his first game as a Titan, he misses 4 field goals. I mean, he's been very up and down this year. He's not the same dude that he was in New England right now.
And as I say, if you make your living hitting the ball with your foot, you're always a moment away from your next paycheck. I look, does that get him fired? I doubt it. But at the same time, man, you just go, whoo!
Deep
breath, deep sigh of relief. Steelers kneel down to end the game. When you look back at this again, even in the second half, did the defense have some letdowns? Yes. But they were on the field the entire second half, I'm encouraged to note that I didn't miss Devin Bush. Yes. That's to me is a big takeaway from this game, is that there wasn't this glaring, we can take advantage of them here because Devin Bush wasn't there. No. There wasn't the glaring lack of communication that we've sometimes seen occur when the guy with the green dot is gone. And I get what Mike Tomlin said last week, that it's not like he's been doing it for years. So they're not necessarily desperately used to him being the guy that does it. But much as I don't want Devin Bush to be gone, that was a sign of maybe of hope, yes, that's not going to cause this team to fall on its face, despite the letdowns. The letdowns, in my mind, had nothing to do with Devin Bush being gone. And some of it, like, DJ, or is it A.J. Moore? I'm going to keep calling him. The guy named Brown.
A.J. Brown.
The guy named Brown. And you know what it is? I'm blaming my own confusion on Mark Caboli. In the middle of this game, when everything is going great, this is why the game went to hell in a handbasket. Mark Caboli has to bring up Antonio Brown.
Of course.
What the hell is wrong with you, Mark Caboli? You bastard. What are you doing? Don't put the kibitz on a good day by bringing up evil mojo. It's bad. I was wrong. It's wrong. But you do sit there and go, okay, one of those catches, right, was terrific catch, but I mean, it was bobbled. Could have gone, could have dropped it. Could have easily dropped it. The Titans got one on the one touchdown. They got a reception that was bounced up in the air, and another guy catches it. And I kept thinking to myself, wait a minute. I think that's two offensive players touching it first, and maybe that's not a rule anymore. But I don't know. It used to be a rule, damn it.
Exactly. I know.
And so I look at this and I go, man, they had a lot of breaks not go their way, the Steelers did, and yet they managed to get the win. The one break they needed at the end was the one that got them the win.
Yes.
So I look at the whole thing and go, yes, were they lucky to get out of there with a win? Yes, but were the Titans lucky to be in the game at that point? Yes.
No.
Yes, I think so. They looked solid. I'm gonna walk away from this game going, if the team that played in the first half of this game is the team that they can turn into as this season progresses, they're going to play a long time. Yes. And they're going to go very far, and there's no reason to think they can't beat anybody. And that includes the Tom Brady, punk-ass Brady, Tampa Bay punk-ass Buccaneers. The hell with them. Man, that would just be the end-all, be-all.
It would be tasty going there, hoisting the Lombardi over Tom Brady.
That would be so good. That would be so sweet. But be that as it may, all right. We don't always do this at the end of this, but we kind of do it in the middle as we go along. But I'm gonna do my grown ass man awards here, and give I gave one to Robert Spillane. I'm going to continue to give one to him because I think he deserves it. I think DJ deserves one. I'm going to give Juju one because of a couple of the catches that he did make, which were very, very nice. And, of course, TJ Watt. I really want to give Cam Hayward a grown-ass man award, but I didn't hear his name once in the whole game, and it's disappointing to me. I mean, that's maybe a good thing as well as a bad thing. I mean, he didn't do anything wrong, but I think Cam's had a quiet season. But he's still playing effectively, and it has to be because this team is playing very well. So those are my guys. I got TJ, DJ, none of the J's on the other team. Robert Spillane and JJ, Juju, JJ. That's what I'm calling him now. So I got a lot of J's and Robert Spillane. Everybody on the Steelers who has a J and Robert Spillane. They're all grown-ass men. Yeah. What about you, man?
Yeah, going back real quick, I actually think about the quality of this team. I think when you have a turnover differential of -3 and you still manage to eke out the win, even though it really was, in my opinion, -2, the defense didn't force any turnovers. You gave the ball away in crucial moments. You held on to win. Championship caliber teams. If you look at the score and you see that you are -3 in turnover differential, you can assume more times often than not you're going to lose that game. The fact that they were able to eke out the win after creating no turnovers, they didn't get after the quarterback as much as we've seen them do in recent weeks. The fact that they were able to do what they wanted to do and still come away and win, I thought was important. That being said, with the sacks, with the kind of what turned into a revolving door next to him now, since he's had 3 different dudes next to him in the last 2 weeks, I'm going with Vince Williams because I thought Vince Williams played a very solid game. I thought he had a lot of grown-ass hits against Derrick Henry. He straight up stood him up. He led the team in tackles. He had a sack. A lot of those tackles he had were in critical moments where he's coming up there and just meeting them head up in the hole and just shoving them back. I think in a league that has been absolutely terrified of Derrick Henry, I thought the Steelers defense as a whole didn't show any type of fear towards him. I mean, his longest gain was 17 yards. When in a time where we're used to seeing him pop off 90-yard touchdowns and 70-yard touchdowns, your longest gain 17, you had a 3.8 average. You can't ask for much more from that. And I think a lot of that had to do with the defensive line as a whole. I know you didn't hear a whole lot of Cam on the stat sheet on the box score, but at the end of the day, too, he still was going and eating up those blocks, and I think that helped out Vince Williams. And Vince Williams, I thought, stood up to the occasion. And we've seen in years past where, Shazier goes down, and that kind of takes a hit on his performance. We saw Devin Bush go down, and the question was, is Spillane going to step up, which we saw he did. But how is Vince Williams going to then react to it? Because, he's kind of turned into the old school 9-on-7 linebacker, so being able to see him go through and still perform at a high level and get in there, not be afraid of taking down Derrick Henry. It doesn't matter if he's the king, King Henry. It doesn't matter if he's, chopping these yards off and is the second coming of an old school 1970s running back. He stood up to the challenge. He got after the quarterback. He had some pressures on Ryan Tannehill. He had a sack. He had those losses. I thought he did very well. And in a game where, like I said, you didn't know what you were going to get from him, I was very pleased to see him kind of step up in that way. So I agree with all the guys you listed. I'm throwing his name on the list as well because I thought you don't have that kind of gusto in there. Like if you had Ulysses Gilbert the third and Robert Spillane, do we see that same type of gusto going against Derrick Henry? Is UG3 going to, he's a phenom in coverage, but in his first real action as a professional, is he going to go in there and stand up to the 6'2", 6'3" Derrick Henry? You don't know. So Vince Williams doing that is why I got to give him the tip of my hat for that.
And I'm going to give Bud a little credit, not GAM credit, but a little credit because he played in the middle a lot in this game. That was they were using Bud to basically, I thought, spy on Derrick Henry, and even if that didn't always come to fruition, that's it kind of reflects Mike Tomlin saying Derrick Henry is Bud Dupree as a running back. Yep. Fine, you get your Bud Dupree, we'll get our Bud Dupree, and we'll smash them together and see which Bud Dupree wins.
Exactly.
But I thought it went very well. You're right about Vince. And I'm not going to call him Vince. I'm calling him Vince because I like calling him Vince. And he's had a very good season. And again, I love it because he's the kind of guy who he keeps saying the same things. They keep getting people to try and take my job. Guess what?
Nope.
I still got my job.
Yep.
And I love that. That was that's a good call out. I should have. I feel bad that I didn't mention him about that. There was something else that I had in my head that I wanted to talk about, and now I can't remember what it is. But now I remember what it is. Kudos to an ex-Steeler, one Ryan Clark, who made some commentary about Mr. Henry. And said, let me just tell you, when he gets hit in the backfield by people like T.J. Watt and Stephon Tuitt, and he called that out dead on. So
and he got eaten alive for it.
He did. Ryan Clark got so much poopy. That's not the word I want to use, but he got so much doo-doo because of that, and he was dead on right. So grown-ass man commentator call for Ryan Clark. For having the guts to say, I don't think it's going to be that way.
Derrick Henry didn't have a bad game, but when we're looking at 20 carries for 75 yards, 3.8 average, and one touchdown that came on the fifth try on the goal line, I mean, you can't ask for much more than that.
No.
Like I said, you're never going to shut him down. He's never going to go for just 20 yards because their offense still runs through him.
Yep.
But to hold him to that inefficient, if you take away that 17-yard gain, his average is even lower. So you have to look at it for what it is, and he had a very pedestrian game, a solid game for an average running back, but from his caliber, who is as dominant and as terrifying as he is to go after. Good for Ryan Clark, and I can't wait to see him just clapping on the tee. I'm gonna go and search for every single clip of him this week I could possibly get because he called his shot and he didn't care what the detractors said, calling him crazy. He believed in the Steelers' defense, and I think this was the biggest challenge the Steelers' defense could have had. And everyone's sitting there saying, well, their run defense is so great, but who have they played? Well, they just played the one who's considered to be the best one.
The top running, top rusher in the NFL.
Doesn't get much better than that, and they shut him down, in my opinion. So, good for him.
75 yards is it's not, out. Hey, James Conner outrushed him. There you go. That's all you need to know.
Coming off a 212-yard rushing performance.
Yeah.
In a game where Tannehill also had 364 yards. I can't complain whatsoever. They cut the yardage in half, so I can't complain at all. Not at
all. I know that they didn't come out of this hole, although in his post-game press conference, Tomlin didn't have a lot of information on the injuries. I don't know what Spillane's injury is going to be, but that is probably the one that's most concerning to me. I mean, I know DJ got hurt, but he came back. I'm pretty sure he came back after that and was in. So I don't know that there's anything else really, concerning. But Spillane concerns me at this point now because you got no more depth.
Now you have to almost go out and get somebody, in my opinion. If Spillane's out for more than 2 weeks, not that I don't like. I mean, everyone knows how I feel about Ulysses Gilbert III, but do you really want to throw him out there, especially with the Ravens on dock next week? I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah, and again, you're not talking about another team that's going to run. Yeah. I just don't know. So we'll see what that what that turns into. That big lick on Derrick Henry may have been a swan song, but let's hope not. Let's hope that he's actually fine. Can come in because he really played well. I'm actually very pleased with how well he played, given the amount of pressure that could have been on him. So, any final thoughts, Professor?
6-0 is a good feeling, and people can sit there and at the end of the day say they've won some close games and they've played down to whomever, but they finally played a team that I don't think anyone can sit here and say wasn't a good team because they made the AFC Championship game last year. They were 5-0 right now. They have been a dominant team, and Ryan Tannehill has been quietly one of the top-performing quarterbacks in the league. They went in there. They went on the road to Tennessee where there were fans playing, so they had more of a home field advantage than we've seen in recent weeks. And, they let it get close. By the end of the day, they found a way to win, even when they looked like they were going to blow it away. I was on the phone with my mom. I'm like, they're going to blow this game away, and it's going to be another Steelers typical performance in the second half. But I thought they did well. When the adversity got tough, they still found ways to do it. I'd like to see a full game. Maybe next week. Next week, in my opinion, defines their season. It doesn't matter. They're 6-0. Nothing matters. If they go into Baltimore and they win, that defines their season. That, in my opinion, that they go up 2 games on the Ravens. That's what you're going to know what this Steelers team is. If they start the season out 7-0, I don't think anyone can argue at that point that this is a legitimate Super Bowl contending team. This is a team that can go through, and even if they play it tight, this team has proven that they can be with anybody. Their attack is balanced. They know how to go in. The game plans, I thought this season have been much more consistent. Like I said, I thought this was easily their best game plan to start a game that we've seen this entire year in terms of ball control, digging and dunking, leaving Henry on the bench. And it's fun. But at the end of the day, I don't care who you play. I don't care how close the games are. You have to win games to make it anywhere in the playoffs. And at the end of the day, the Steelers are 6-0, something that they haven't done in my lifetime. I know you were around to see the 78 Super Bowl, so I know I'm sure this is an exciting time for all you guys. But for me, I'm enjoying the ride, and you can't fake 6-0. Now there's 2. We'll see if the Seahawks win tonight, and if they don't, maybe the Steelers are sitting atop the pedestal by themselves by the end of the night. You never know. So we'll see. It's exciting.
I had told Joe I think that considering how Andy Daltonish the Cowboys are now, and that translates to stink.
Nucci time down there.
Considering all of that, this stretch, which probably is the toughest stretch of the season, Titans, Ravens, and Cowboys all on the road, they can come out of this 3-0. I don't see any reason they can't go into Baltimore and win that game and be 8-0 at the midway point of the season.
Even if they lose next week and they end up being
and play good,
play well, 7-1, you have every reason to be confident in this team.
Absolutely, I'm really encouraged with what we're seeing. I think you really can't. From record standpoint, they just beat what was the best or second best team in the AFC from a record standpoint, right? And there's no reason to think they can't go in and beat anybody at this point. The way that they can play when they need to, the defenses can step up, the offense can score. It's so much different than last year, and I'm so happy about that.
It's nice. I keep thinking about they made a comment the Steelers have scored at least 25 points in every game this season. I keep thinking back to last year, and I'm like, I think did they even do it 6 times last year?
No, I don't think so.
I'd have to go back and look, but
I'd have to see if they did it once.
I think they've already substantially clipped that number. I'm sitting there. It's refreshing to see an offense, even if they lose a game, still score over 25 points. It's still a refreshing concept. Yep. So I won't complain at all.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for us. Professor, I thank you for filling in. We appreciate it. It's good to see you again, my friend. Everybody out there can now see the far ends of our SCU spectrum, the youth to the aged.
The youth and the short-hairedness from what used to be the massive hair.
Wait, I have
the hawk going.
I still got the mohawk. I'm not cutting it. I'm not cutting it until I have to.
You gotta keep it going.
Gotta keep it. And this jersey is now 6-0. That's all I got to say.
Not broke, don't fix it.
That's right, Mr. Claypool. I ain't taking this thing off until I need to, and so let's make sure I don't. So that'll wrap it up for us in another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. The bobblehead says thank you for joining. Remember to like, subscribe, comment as you can, and we appreciate all of you listening on all the different formats that we have. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us wherever you want, but make sure you listen to us here, and we'll be back for a post-game or pre-game or one of them game things early next week. So until then, remember, and it's more true than ever, it's chaos out there, so be kind.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.